You should be able to hear things down there now. So testing.
Testing 1, 2. Testing 1, 2. Testing 1, 2. Check 1, 2. Testing 1, 2. Testing 1, 2. Testing 1, 2. Check 1, 2. Testing 1, 2. 1, 2. Check 1, 2. Testing 1, 2. 1, 2. Testing 1, 2. 1, 2. Testing 1, 2. Check 1, 2. 1, 2. Is that? It's off. It's a lot. No, it's sorry. I'm really sorry about Steelers today. I'm a Dolphins fan. If he didn't step out, that would have been. I was like, oh my God, I can't believe it just happened. I was, wow. By that much. I was, oh my God, I can't believe it. Testing 1, 2, 1, 2. Check 1, 2. Testing 1, 2, 1, 2. Check 1, 2. Check 1, 2. Testing 1, 2. Testing 1, 2, 1, 2. Testing 1, 2, 1, 2. Testing 1, 2, 1, 2. Check, check. Testing 1, 2, 1, 2.
You need something to listen to? Through internet. I see your leg. But everybody's got right now. Got all the things running. Yeah, then you turn and start the video. All
You're better than me.
I'm good. Oh, yeah, I bought my ticket today.
It's a normal work for me.
That's something. This phone.
About that share. Space, baby.
How are you? Gotta get a screen.
It's just Jimmy.
I'm gonna give you. I'm enjoying I like sitting on the right, looking right and left, because I'm much more comfortable. This way, then aim the other way, do this and look that way.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Appreciate you.
Appreciate you.
Oh, I'm right there. Oh, that's my bad. I gotta learn. I'm still learning.
You keep moving that way. Come on over the wedding.
Mr. Puerto Rican. I want to We'll make it. You can score it. You right. All right, y'all take care. Good to see you too.
Meeting individuals.
See, I'm understanding. I was under the impression that they would go to the meeting, then at the meeting today, get information, and then come back, and then kind of say, this is what we shared with us at the meeting, and then kind of develop a one school, one vote type philosophy. You know what I mean? So
Can I slide by you?
Oh, sure thing. I don't have any details.
I think the people are going to be right here. There's no way to. I mean, I can take some tape. That's not going to work. I can set a table here. It's still too low though.
No, I was trying. You can raise it, but I was trying to see if it
It's
tilted.
not. It's not.
Must be.
all you got to do, man.
It was up all the way. Okay. Maybe you want to prop some books underneath it or something.
But don't fall.
No, I get a book. Something.
So you want
Better? I need more cable. There we go. That's my box. You just want to tape it. You think this is tape to that stand?
If you pull it out, the USB comes out.
Yeah, I know. If you leave it in there. I just didn't want to have somebody bump it.
Well,
He grew back from it.
I've done anything with this. And it's 2000 and 2001. Okay, that's all I need. That's industrious.
Can you see the picture?
Jimmy
Yes, sir.
has gone over and
He has,
And
but I
it-
don't have the PowerPoint yet. No.
Okay, McKibben's sitting right out there.
I was told that he would have a flash drive.
He's
and I
got a
could-
flash drive.
Okay.
Want me to go get him, have him do it now?
If I could load it now, that would be great. How does that look, the image? That's,
You see all the tables?
that's okay? Still okay? Sure.
It's actually rotating now.
It's shaking it up.
Stop.
It had to be kind of set it up.
I thought you were over there.
It's good.
Very comfortable. Walking in like a plane. I'll just drag it over.
I'll be in there. Probably. I'll be glad to drive it for you to
Actually down more. Nice tape job. Yeah. How's that?
Good evening. Welcome to the school board meeting that will be starting very soon. We want to let you know we do have an overflow room set up. It's the room next door. We are broadcasting everything that happens in this room in the room next door. We have plenty of seating there, so you don't have to stand. We will have some recognitions at the beginning of the meeting of several students who've accomplished some wonderful things, and after the recognition, the room may clear out quite a bit, but we do want you to know we do have an overflow room with lots of seating just right next door, so you don't have to stand unless you choose to do so. Thank you very much, and thank you for being here.
We had the Broncos for school awards last night. There you it's done. Thank you for taking that. The eyeballs. Mr. Basin. Sam. Mr. Basin. Yeah. Good. I just need to take something. I'm on my way. Sorry about that. I won't email you. I can't help you with your numbers and PDD. All right, thank Let me know when the. No, you can.
There is that's good. Step. This one. If you could wire it, you could put it right here.
How's everybody doing? We're going to call the meeting to order. I want to thank everybody for coming. Mr. Crowder, could you turn your microphone on and give us an invocation, please, sir?
And let's pray. Gracious Father, we thank you for the opportunity to come serve the children of Union County Public Schools. Gracious Father, we ask you to bless the parents and bless the people that has come tonight to share with us and making decisions that's going to be beneficial for all the children that we serve. Gracious Father, we ask that you would bless this Board of Education, give us strength, give us understanding, and give us knowledge to make decisions that's going to be best to serve our children. And gracious Father, we ask that you would bless the superintendent and her staff. Gracious Father, give them the leadership, guidance, and the understanding to make decisions that's going to be best for all concerned. And gracious Father, we ask that you would bless the students in the Union County Public Schools, Gracious Father, as we go into the Christmas season, we ask that you would protect them from all hurt, harm, and danger. And gracious Father, we ask that you would give us the understanding and the knowledge to realize what's best for the children when they come back to school in the new year. Gracious Father, as we leave this meeting tonight, we ask that you would leave on one accord with doing what's good for children we serve in the county. Amen.
Amen. Okay, if everybody stand, we are going to say the pledge of allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
While we're sitting down, do I have any other elected officials here this evening that we can recognize? Hello, who are you? Hello, Gene Kennery from Wesley Chapel. Thank you for coming. Anybody, any other elected officials? Marvin Rich, thanks, Lynn. Anybody else? All right. Well, I want to thank all the elected officials for coming, and I want to thank everybody for being here. We do have the overflow room open, I understand, and we are recording, so if you get tired of standing, there might be a seat over there. We're going to move down to the, let's see, Michelle, this says add something. 18A. Add 18A. Okay, so I need to make an amendment to our agenda, and we're going to add an 18A, closed session decisions. Everybody got that?
We have 18.
Okay, make it 18B. Make it J. I don't know where she went to law school, folks, but is that undergrad? You didn't go that. No, our general counsel is a wonderful, wonderful person. I'm digging myself out of the hole. I know. Stop digging. Okay, so. Thank you, Mr. Stewart. Marcia Savage seconded. All those in favor? It is unanimous. So we're going to go now to special recognitions.
Board members, if you'll come around front, please. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We have numerous individuals we would like to recognize tonight. First, I ask that Benton Heights Elementary School of the Arts Principal, Ms. Blair Traywood, School of the Arts Coordinator, Mr. Frank Cass-Stevens, and Media Coordinator, Ms. Beth Lansey, come forward. We're very pleased to announce tonight that Benton Heights Elementary School of the Arts has received the John F. Kennedy Center for the Performing Arts of Excellence Award. Only 5 schools in North Carolina were selected by Arts North Carolina, a member of the Kennedy Center Alliance for Arts Education Network. I know you all worked hard on the application process for this award, which focuses on the school's arts education, arts integration, and arts exposure. Congratulations for an excellent job. In addition, I ask that Mr. Cass-Stevens stays up front. We'd also like to congratulate you for receiving the 2013 Center Stage Award given annually by the Blumenthal Performing Arts Center. The award is presented to an individual whose service and/or partnership with the Blumenthal has significantly furthered the mission and improved the programs that Blumenthal Performing Arts Center provides to the community. It was presented at the Blumenthal's annual meeting in mid-November, And here to support him, I believe, are your wife Holly and your son Trevor, I think. Please stand. Let's give them a round of applause. I'd also like to recognize Miss Angie Mangum, a teacher from Prospect Elementary, who was recently selected by the AIG Elementary and Middle School teachers as their representative for the AIG Teacher of the Year. Ms. Mangum teaches 4th and 5th grade AIG students. It is said that her positive attitude and her love for children are reflected in her daily teaching and program practices. Her principal, Kim Chennis, says that she plays a huge leadership role in supporting and advocating for her students and the AIG program. Ms. Mangum will now advance to compete on a state level, vying for the title of North Carolina AIG Teacher of the Year. Here to support Ms. Mangum tonight are her husband, Mike, her principal, Ms. Chennis, and the Director of AIG Programs, Mr. Bill Cook. Congratulations, Ms. Mangum. We're honored tonight to recognize some of our UCPS athletes who have gone on all the way to become state champions. You make us very proud. It takes time and dedication to play a sport, and to perform in that sport better than anyone else in the state is quite an accomplishment. We also recognize the support of your parents, your coaches, who also play a part in this achievement. You're all to be commended. We have several state champions to be recognized tonight. When I call your names, please come forward and allow school board members to congratulate you. First, we have the 3A state tennis champion, Heidi Swope from Weddington High School. Heidi is a junior who has lost one singles match in her high school career. Wow. That deserves it. She is an Observer Player of the Year and Regional Player of the Year after also leading the Warriors to a 3A state runner-up finish. She also won a 3A doubles state title last year with teammate Emma Yates. Here to support Heidi tonight are her parents Nicole and Matt, her coach Mike Murphy, Weddington's athletic director Michael Lee, and her principal Jonathan Bowers. Let's give her another round of applause. Congratulations are also due to the Marvin Ridge High School cheerleaders for being named the medium varsity state champions. We're very proud of you, and would cheer coach Sil Kelly and the following squad members please come forward. And if I slaughter your name, I apologize in advance. Anna Van Gert, Maria Mavrolidis, Shannon Raines, Sydney Mitchell, Anna Schott, Adina Lawrence, Alexis Abbott, Caroline Killian, Miranda Walno, Amberly Mays, Lindsay Waldrop, Nicole Woodley, Rachel Klein, Lauren Clements, Taylor Moore, Courtney Parker, and Morgan Wonder. Here to support the team are Marvin Ridge Athletic Director, Mr. Kevin Allran, and the Marvin Ridge High School Principal, Mr. Tim Connor. If you're a parent of one of these outstanding athletes, would you also please stand so we can recognize you? Congratulations.
It looks like they've done this before.
Yeah.
Hold still, Dad's taking a picture. The iPhone is out.
Now we would like to recognize Marvin Ridge High School's men's soccer team for taking the 3A North Carolina High School Athletic Association Men's Soccer Championship. The Marvin Ridge soccer team finished the season ranked #1 in the nation. By the Max Prep Soccer Poll. Head coach, Mr. Jason Zack, assistant coach, Pete Patelis, and the following team members. First, Kyle Enid, who was the team championship game MVP, Andrew Glasser, Alex Tate, Clint Parker, Ryan Scott, John Ramshaw, Daniel Smith, Chris Keneally, Keegan Dwyer, Alex Moncalvo, Colin David, Will Green, Jordan Klein, Eric Newsom, Richard Van Gert, Matt Hawes, Jimmy Bovile, Bailey Frederick, Jason Corday, Mitchell Guthrie, Chris Garrett, Harrison Tuning, Jacob Little, Jordan Klein. Here to support the team tonight, AD, Mr. Kevin Allran, and Marble Ridge High Principal, Mr. Connor. If you're a parent of one of these fine young athletes, would you stand? I believe the Marvin Ridge Maverick Mama wants to say something here. Go Mavericks! Parents, I know you're very proud as well. You ought to be. Your children are our children, and they're our county's treasures. Thank you for sharing them with Union County Public Schools. This concludes the presentation, board members.
So we're going to keep moving down our agenda. So item 6, we've got comments from our board. What are the comments? We're going to move on then to comments from the public. I have a list here. Before we do that, I'm going to read the PSA announcement. 30 minutes has been allotted to public comments. Community members wishing to speak during public comments should state their name, address, and phone number prior to making other comments. The board will not hear in open session complaints about the performance of school personnel, personnel issues, confidential student issues. Individuals may address the board for a maximum of 3 minutes. Any person who is representing a group may address the board for a maximum of 5 minutes. Should a community member wish to seek information or share items that may not be shared during public comments, our deputy superintendents are available to address your concerns or provide information. Our deputy superintendents will stand as I introduce them, please. Dr. David Clark, Deputy Superintendent of Human Resources. Dr. Clark. And Dr. Mike Webb, Deputy Superintendent of Instructional Technology and Operations. If you have any questions that we can't talk about up here, please see one of those folks. Okay, first I have Gilbert Spears.
Good evening. My name is Gilbert Spears. I live at 14325 Northridge Drive, Charlotte, North Carolina, 28269. My phone number is 704-906-481. I teach at Sun Valley Middle School, and I'm also serving as co-president for the Union County Association of Educators. I bring you warm holiday greetings on behalf of the officers and members of our local association. First, we would like to thank the cabinet staff and superintendent for their participation in our Education Week activities. From Dr. Clark and Dr. Webb, participating in the Union County Educator's Child Town Hall meeting, to the wonderful turnout during our 4th annual Educator Support Professional Appreciation Night. We would also like to thank Dr. Ellis and others for declaring their support on behalf of raises for our classified employees during recent county commission meetings. We appreciate the strong showing the Board of Education continues to demonstrate when it comes to putting our students first. while looking out for the working conditions of the UCPS employees as well. Your courage and leadership is needed yet again in standing up for a piece of very badly written legislation which requires school boards to offer 4-year contracts to 25% of its teachers. This law is poorly written at best and intentionally harmful at worst. It is for this reason that NCAE is filing a lawsuit to protect career status and due process. Locally, we feel that the premise of the 25% teacher contracts goes against everything that we as a PLC-based school district is about. I stand before you tonight to ask that the Union County School Board consider the proposed resolution I am sharing with you this evening. Whether you keep the exact language or choose to use it as a template, it is vitally important that we not allow such divisive legislation to stand. I will now read you the last three parts of this resolution. Now, therefore, be it resolved that while the Board of Education will implement laws as required, it will, to the extent possible, avoid adopting a plan that is divisive and damages the collaborative working relationship among teachers and school administrators who work daily to promote student growth and achievement. And now, therefore, be it resolved that the Board of Education urges the General Assembly that it be allowed to retain its prorated share of the $10 million allocated for the 25% contract to be used for alternative pay or compensation for additional duties such as mentoring or leadership roles. And now, therefore, be it resolved that the Board of Education urges the North Carolina General Assembly to repeal the 25% contract and develop an effective compensation plan tied to career paths with input from the education and business community. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Stewart. Next is Mary Ann Shields.
My name is Mary Ann Shields. I live at 1407 Winter Drive, Waxhaw 28173. My phone number is 704-356-9287. I appreciate your allowing me to speak tonight. I felt that I owed it to my children and to my community to speak to you. I know you have monumental decisions before you about how to deal with the overcrowding. But I felt that I wanted you to have some faces and a story to carry with you into your decision, because it affects us all personally. When I got divorced 6 years ago, I was living in Maryland, and my boys were in elementary school. I worried about what the future would hold for my children and me. I went back to work for the first time in 15 years. When my ex-husband lost his job in Maryland and needed to move to North Carolina for his career, I was faced with a very difficult decision. Do I sell the only home my boys knew, only school that they knew, and move to North Carolina so they could be with their father? Do I lose all the equity because I'm selling at a terrible time in the real estate market? Clearly, that decision is apparent, because we relocated to Union County 2.5 years ago. This is my Ryan. He is a freshman at Cuthbertson High School. Things have not always been easy for Ryan. He had an IEP for speech throughout elementary school. He's considered average intelligence in average classes, despite my protests. But through his belief in himself and his work ethic, I am proud to say he is an honors student at Cuthbertson High School, maintaining a 4.25 GPA. He works out at the high school basketball gym twice a day, Monday through Friday, getting up at 5:30 a.m. And he is proud
to represent the Cuthbertson Cavaliers junior varsity basketball team this year. This is my Matt. He's a 7th grader at Cuthbertson Middle School. When we moved to Union County 2.5 years ago, Matt was the starting quarterback of the first ever Cuthbertson 4th, 5th grade football team. They had a great year and even went to the playoffs. But when the season ended, Matt said to me, "I'm not going to play football anymore." I said, "What? You're the quarterback of the football team. Who wouldn't want that? Why would you not play football?" And he said,
Go ahead, just wrap us up with just a little bit. We're going to try to keep it to 3 minutes.
"I've got 5. I'm representing Bob Briarcrest."
Thank you.
He said, "I accomplished what I wanted to accomplish by being on the football team." And I said, "What was that?" And he said, "I made friends. And that's what I needed to do because I just moved to North Carolina." Kudos to Matt, because he's very well networked at Cuthbertson Middle School. I made 3 promises to my children when we moved here. I promised them a dog, I promised them an in-ground basketball hoop, and I promised them that there would be no more change in their lives until they were adults. Our dog's name is Scoop. We use the in-ground hoop every day. But I need your help on that last promise I made to my children. They want to graduate from Cuthbertson High School. So I ask you, as you enter this decision, please ask yourself what you want to happen to your community, what you would want to happen to your family, and what you would want to happen to your children. I appreciate your time.
Thank you. Mrs. Shields, I'm sorry, I should have asked you if you were representing a group or an individual. It says Briarcrest. Okay, Shannon Malozzi. Then how did I do? Are you okay? Malozzi? Okay. Last name like your check. You know, you always. Now, are you an individual or representing a group?
I'm representing Lawson, so I'm so fair and white.
Great.
First, I want to thank you for, sorry, my name is Shannon Lizzie. I'm 2209 Riverbank Road, Waxhaw, from Carolina 28163. My phone number is 704-256-4815. I'd like to thank you for giving us all a chance to voice our concerns tonight. Before we start, I just want to go on record as saying we've had kind of preliminary meetings in Lawson to discuss the upcoming district because obviously we're concerned, everyone else is concerned. One of the things that we're aware of, and I want to make sure everyone in this room is aware of as well, is that we know that you folks did not create this problem. Unfortunately. Because you know what, honestly, there's an education factor, which we found just going after our own folks at Lawson. A lot of people said, how did this happen? Why are they doing this? And we understand that you're not. You have the unenviable task of trying to clean up a really horrendous mess, and we don't envy you it. And at the end of the day, not everyone is going to be happy. To that end, without hearing the findings of the McKibben report, I think that for us right now at Lawson, we just wanted to address, I guess, the broader picture, if you will. 2 points being that we want to know what, if anything, we can do as a community, as Lawson Development, as some of our neighbors, to help get a bond put on the ballot to vote for the school. Like, what does it take? You guys are all tremendously educated people, and it hasn't happened yet. So I'm sure that there's something we're missing. I think that there's an education factor that needs to go out there for the rest of us as to why it hasn't happened. And also, what constructively, there's been a lot of anecdotal discussion, but what can we do to help you? This is not a problem for you guys to solve. This is a greater problem. And that goes to my second point that, and forgive me if I'm being naive and my own ignorance, but I've been going to the planning meetings, and for the construction and for the developments and whatnot, we got involved. There was issue of Lawson. There's a greater problem here, and that is that the developers are being handed out the rights to development like it's candy. It's like a rubber stamp approval at this point. That has nothing to do with you guys, and you're smiling because you can't say anything, but you know I'm right. So I guess what I'm asking is, we want to help you because at the end of the day, we know we're in this together. Is it possible to form a coalition, if you will, or an oversight group that's comprised of folks from the Board of Education, the Board of Commissioners, though I say to include them, but I do, taxpayers, concerned parents. We are building developments in communities that we can no longer support them by giving them an adequate facility to go to school. When we're done redistricting, the cap was abandoned, the redistricting, I'm sorry to say, it's our opinion, and I think it's shared by a lot of folks, is also a band-aid. Because at the end of the day, whatever the McKibben report findings are, there have been building permits divvied out like candy on Halloween over the last 3 to 6 months. We don't have enough seats for our kids. So when we're done breaking people's hearts, like you're Ryan, which I have sympathy for you, I truly do, at the end of the day, redistricting isn't truly going to solve it. So how do we solve it, and how do we make sure that we're all not sitting in this room again 2 or 3 years from now? Because if we don't have that oversight, and quite frankly, you've got our attention. This is the next time to say, hey, somebody out there raise your hand who wants to be involved with working with this group to make sure that we are not sitting here again in 3 years. I can tell you the folks in Lawson are willing. I personally am willing, but I don't know what's involved and what it takes. So I guess I'm asking you, is that something that we can look to? Because as a community, it's the emperor's new clothes. What we're doing is not working. So I just want to throw that out there and ask if we can have that discussion, and if today is not the day to have it, when can we? And I would ask that if any of you think that what I'm talking about is a viable solution or something that we can build upon, please feel free. My contact information is a matter of public record. We know that there's a lot of changes coming in Lawson, and we know that we may not be happy with everything that comes out of it, but we would like to make sure that our voices are heard, and we'd like to make sure that there's something constructive in the works going forward so that we're not constantly doing this for your sake and for our children's sake. That's it.
Moving to our next item, we're going to go to open session meeting minutes for approval. First, October 29th, 2013, is there any discussion? I have a motion to approve October 29th, 2013. Thank you, Mike. Motion, second. Thank you, Ms. Hodge. Helms. H's are together. All in favor? Aye. It is unanimous. Okay. Moving to B, November the 12th, 2013. Any discussion?
Move to approve, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Stewart. Thank you, Mrs. Helms. All in favor? Aye. It is also unanimous. We're going to move to our consent agenda.
This way.
Do we have any discussion regarding our consent agenda? We have discussion on consent agenda.
Was there a question about the alternative agencies or do we need clarification?
Good. May I have a second? I have a motion to approve. Mrs. Savage seconded. All in favor? Aye. Okay, we're going to move now to the superintendent's reports.
Good evening, board members, and good evening, ladies and gentlemen in the audience. This has been an eventful month, and several things that I'd like to highlight for the board, and I have a holiday gift for you at the end. It sort of touches on communication. My, who would have ever known that would be the topic. There's some tricks in this old world to get, I'll just say, live it that way. Prize Patrol for our Ed Foundation, we distributed, the Education Foundation distributed $18,000 to teachers within the past month, and it was for teachers doing special projects with our children in Union County Public Schools. I was privileged to visit about, I'd say 4 schools, and teachers were absolutely floored. They had no idea we were coming, and it did my heart good to see these teachers being rewarded monetarily for their work. And it was all for things for children. It was not money for teachers to spend themselves. Also was privileged to travel to Washington, D.C. with Mr. Steve Ray, the principal at Weddington Middle School, and Mr. Scott Spencer, the principal at Shiloh Elementary. These 2 schools were recognized as National Blue Ribbon Schools, and it was wonderful. Other than districts with like 175,000 children, we were the only smaller district that had 2 schools recognized, and that was Union County Public Schools. It says that truly our children are learning here. In addition to that, the gentleman from Sun Valley Middle was right about NCAE, the non-certified recognition that was held a couple of weeks ago. I would say we had a couple hundred participants there, and it was a good meeting. I was able to talk with the bus drivers and cafeteria workers and custodians about the cost of living increase for them that we'll be talking about later tonight. In addition, I was one of the speakers at our Biz Ed luncheon with our business partners, and a little group from Benton Heights School of the Arts was singing, and a little girl passed out right in the middle of it, just crumpled, and I was sitting there, and I'm thinking, somebody needs to get up and help that child. And then I thought to myself, well, girl, you got the closest to her. What are you doing sitting here thinking? So I jumped up and caught her right before her little head hit the ground, literally. The child had not eaten that day, and it was hot in there. When you're in 4th grade, it's pretty exciting to sing in front of a couple hundred people. Thank goodness she stopped breathing. Thank goodness, and I truly mean that she is fine now. Carolyn White is an angel of mercy, and Carolyn did a home visit the next day to make sure things were well with her. In addition, Mr. Yurchek, Dr. Webb, and Mr. Scott Jackman and I traveled to Atlanta, Georgia. We were invited to do a presentation, an international presentation on our one-to-one computing model. This was not something that our taxpayers bore the expense of. We were invited and to go. They paid our round trip when we drove, all 4 of us in a car. I just want you to know. I rode with the board chair for 8 hours, all right? Then he rode with me. It was amazing to me. We presented with schools in Switzerland, in 5 continents were represented, and they invited the folks they wanted, and one of the groups they wanted was Union County Public Schools. And that says something about your children and your teachers and your principals and the vision of this board to get us to where we still need work to get there. Also, I attended the Winter Superintendent's Conference. It wasn't a conference, it was a fight last week in Raleigh. I have never been party to something like that. Superintendents are more upset than I have ever seen in my life with the state of education in North Carolina. From the 25% contract to the common exams or MSLs or whatever you want to call them, to tenure. I mean, it just runs the gamut. I don't know if you folks are aware of this or not, but normally we, at the 20th or 40th day, we get a drop of teachers based on our numbers. And this year, we have not gotten our 20-day allotment numbers, and Union County has grown over 1,000 children. We're owed teachers to the tune of 1 teacher for every 30 children. We still do not have. I stood up in front of 115 superintendents and said, when are we going to get it? Well, lo and behold, most school districts have lost students, and no superintendent is anxious to lose money. One of them did like this to me and said, I'm going to lose $200,000. Be quiet. I just looked at him and I thought, really? I spoke with Jen Atkinson today, our state superintendent, 3 different times, and Dr. Clark will have numbers to her in the morning, and they're going to expedite it and get our numbers and get our teachers out to us. I'm looking at about 28 extra teachers to reduce class size in Union County Public Schools. I want you to know that. So Miss Savage, if you're here on the state board, I was feisty. Just say, go get them, all right? Please, all right. The large districts superintendents continue to work together to try to meet with the governor and with legislators to make some changes. We'll see how that goes. Last 2 things. The Relay for Life folks came and met with our principals in this room last week, and I did not know this, but I knew that Union County teachers and staff had raised $176,000 for United Way, and that is in a year when teachers did not receive a pay increase. That's awesome. What I did not know was that Union County raised $140,000 for Relay for Life. That's very close to my heart. And of that $140,000, Union County staff members, public schools, not county, public school staff members raised $104,000 of that $140,000. And in addition, with the American Red Cross, guess who gives more blood, literally and figuratively, than anybody in the county? And that would be the students, the high school students, and the teachers in Union County Public Schools. And to my bosses, the 9 of you, I wish you a happy holidays. To parents out here, we're not finished, but I wish you a happy holidays. And in the effort of communication, this is what we're putting on the website tomorrow for our parents. And we're going to send it out to principals to let them know this is just a snapshot of Union County Public Schools. Let me give credit to Rob Jackson and Arthur Rogers. Gentlemen, would you please play our video?
This county, this Union County, from Piedmont to Marvin, from Stallings to Prospect, our goals are the same. Our focus has never been more clear. The children of Union County. We have carved a place on the national stage by leading our state with rising graduation rates, outstanding athletics, record-breaking academics, and teachers who understand what it means to teach. It's about making my size fit me a reality, and a model for school districts across this nation. It's because we won't settle for just being good enough. It's about being good, about being better, about being the best. And never, never let it rest. Until your good is better and your better is best, we are UCPS.
Board members, the proudest part of my life professionally is working for the children of Union County Public Schools. And Mr. Chair, this concludes the superintendent's report.
Thank you very much. Okay. On to what I think some of y'all are here for, the Kibben reports.
This county.
That's pretty good.
Good evening. I don't teach. I used to teach. I don't teach. It's very difficult. I know we have a lot to do. My challenge is growth, planning schools, building schools, buying property, etc. And forecasting growth is not easy. It's a task that it's hard to comprehend sometimes. And I met Jerry McKibben in, I think, 2007 at a conference.
And the method he uses for forecasting growth really appealed to me. So I brought him to the county back then, and we've done, I think this is the second forecast we've done, and he's helped the third. This is the third one. And he's helped us tweak between the years. So anyway, with all the growth that's been happening the last year or so, we decided it was time to do another forecast study. So we hired Jerry McKibben to do that, and he's here to present it. And it's very long, and tomorrow it will be posted on the website, on the facilities webpage, under planning instruction and the updates, reports, etc. So it will be posted, and he's here to talk about it to you.
Thank you, Don. Dr. Ellis, the chairman of the board. And we forgot to mention that the last two forecasts were also incredibly accurate. I was school district, Jackson, Mississippi last night, doing a similar presentation.
Excuse me just a minute. Can everybody in here hear me? No. Please eat that microphone.
We'll do it this way. Okay. Similar sized crowd beforehand that I'm out here to walk for you sometimes. So feel free to leave if you want to. A lot of you faced it before from the last time. Real quickly, we're going to go through, as Don mentioned, this is a different forecast methodology. This is demographic. Two-step procedure. The full population forecast, higher population, 34, 85 plus, 5 elementary things, rolls up the middle of the time. The result of that population forecast then drives the home forecast. Home forecast is basically home drives. Real close. So the key part here is to understand the population forecast. And we get every piece of data we can hold of. Now, it's more than just housing being built. It's more than just that. It's age distribution, it's housing structure, family size, it's distribution of people throughout the life course, and it's different for each individual kind of area. We're doing this for 25 years at over 1,000 school districts myself. First thing parents always ask, my area is absolutely right. And this procedure is designed to grasp each area's individual and unique demographic characteristics. So when you put change factors, you're addressing that population, not the historic trend, not the trend. So this is a very key point. I'm going to a couple of examples. Now again, these are forecasts. Forecasts is a projection. Projections take the past trends, lock them in, and drive them in the future. A forecast is a set of assumed things occur. If the assumptions hold true, forecasts are accurate, plus or minus 2% at the district level, 10 years forecast. If there's a violation of the assumptions, then they go beyond that 2% point. 3.5% margin of error at the planetary level. So quickly, I need to go through the key macro assumptions. Next slide, please. Blow that up to the whole thing. Now, a couple of these are very, very important. One of them is not in there, I'll get to that later. One, we don't want to discuss. It's not been a booming recovery. We're not going back to recession. All right. Two, and this is probably the most important one. 30-year fixed income or fixed mortgage rate stable at 5.0%. Union County is dependent upon new households moving in, keep their home constant. We go out growing just to stay even households moving in. And we'll show a reason for that later. As we saw in the housing bust of 2008, 9, and 10, when the in-migration of households drops off, either through new home construction or existing home sales, you don't have enough kids coming in to keep children at the same size. That will vary from area to area throughout the district. This is a rather bold assumption, 5%. Ben Bernanke was hinted last summer of tapering that pointed at using 30-year fixed one, 5 to about 4 or 5, about 6 Now, this is a tipping point. You see the same thing on unemployment rates too. If it goes 5.5%, stays there for a couple of months, drops back down, spikes around and goes down. If it goes to 9%, stays there for 3 or 4 years, it's a major violation of something. Okay. Now, generational thing here I can point out too on interest rates. Those of us who first bought our houses in the 80s and 90s, things like that, anything below 6.5% is still a student. Some of us remember 9%. Over the last 5 years, 3, 3.5, 4, pretty attractive. So for us, elderly, or over 50, still 5% is a very, very cheap mortgage rate. Those under 40 and above 5, so it's going to have an impact on house practice. Subprime mortgage approval rate stays at 99,002 levels. Lenders don't return to subprime mortgage practices. We've lost about $16 trillion on that. That can happen. There's no additional restrictions placed on mortgage lenders, additional bankruptcies, Freddie and Fannie here. There's back 85% of all home mortgages, if they go under, the whole ballgame. Housing foreclosure rate is 125%. Your foreclosure rate is higher than traditional last 10 years in the county. It's not nearly as bad as it is in Georgia, Florida, California. Like, probably higher than you'd like, but it's not really a crisis level yet. For full disclosure, I use RealTrack and Zillow, my 2 sources for it. It's right down housing level foreclosure. I find Zillow is a little better for home sales, RealTrack better for foreclosure. So I can use both, have 2 data sets and all that. It's great. It's great cocktail parties. Look it up. You see what's going to neighbors in foreclosure and behind the things. That good stuff. Next slide, please. All currently planned, platted, and approved house development will occupy by 2022, occupied by 2023, and we'll see this later. We're assuming in these forecasts 2,000 new housing come online per year over the next 5 years, and about 1,700 per year the next 5 years after that. Very, very simple. If you have more than 2,000 a year come online in the next 5 years, I'm going to give you luck. If you have fewer than 2,000 come online in the next 5 years, I'm going to give you high. I'll tell you that right up front. But that's the assumption that these forecasts are based on. And it gives you a quantitative yardstick here to see if you're tracking, one of the key assumptions in the forecast. Unemployment rate in the Charlotte metropolitan area remains below 8.5%. Metropolitan area, because most of the people who live in Union County don't work in Union County. Charlotte MSA. Transfer rates in and out remain at the 05-14 level. Inflation rate for gasoline stays at 5% per year. If you do have 5% inflation for gasoline per year for the next 10 years, we're looking at about $7.90 a gallon. Factor. There's no building moratorium in the district. That's in here because the headwinds of talk about water and sewer. That issue rises its head again. Building moratorium, that would be a definite drag on buildings. Business remains viable. We don't see the Wachovia go under a big problem. Next slide, please. The number of existing home sales in the district is low. Distressed home sales, underwater mortgages, are 20%. We're running about 12 right now, so we're shape on that one. And the turnover rate, this is a very, very key point. This will become very important in the next 10 years. Turnover, existing homes, have kids in them, go empty nest, first time occupants move out, and young family moves in. It's called housing turnover. Which, by the way, is going to become the main factor of in-migration, probably by the end of the decade. The majority over 55. Usually it's over 70 when you start turning over. Private homeschool attendance rates stay the same. They don't go to vouchers. They don't have new charters open up. Home construction rates stabilize and going back up again. You don't see foreclosure. Those are the major macro assumptions. Now, a very key point. I am forecasting demographic trends. We're holding all of your administrative policies constant. So when you see changes in individual schools per year, those are demographically driven. You can change policy, remove the program, change grade configuration, and like that. You need to add or subtract that from the forecast results because they're not in there. All admin policies are constant. So, next slide, please. This is building permits, forget it, say, for the county. Here's the lending boom the last decade. Here's the drop off, trough, and now you see go back up. Or you see some renewed interest in the housing market coming back. The main difference now, what was in the last decade, is much more concentrated in specific areas. The building lending boom the last decade was more widespread over a greater part of the county. Now you're seeing it more targeted, more concentrated, specifically Kensington, Newtown, those areas. And not to say you're not seeing any other buildings around the district. It's not as widespread as it was in this last one. Also, a lot of, and this goes to your high school problem too, a lot of households moved out here in this 7-year period, and the children they brought with them are now 7 years older, and they're aging through the system. You have an age wave going through your system right now. And the dynamics of that population is completely independent of any building or home sales or anything like that. So when people look at enrollment change in the district, they frequently will identify 1, 2, 3 variables. And every time I've talked to them, they've been asking, right? I've never had a parent or an administrator or a board member come up and raise an issue that was just totally off the wall. The problem is there's about 20, 25 variables at work, some positive, some negative. And you must look at those factors in total. You're going to have a complete view of what the long-term trend is going to be. We're going to some of those in a second. But this is a key point here. We've got to go into 2000, kind of flattening out 18 and dropping off a little bit, but not going back down to the 500 level of 2010. Again, if the economy holds and the interest rates don't go out of whack and all that. Next slide, please. Now, those in the audience can't read this. I think go the line. But in the report, on the web, there's about 164 pages on the report. That's the personal record on this one. This is Table 7, very, very important one. This is from the 2010 census. What we do is we superimpose all the elementary boundaries on 2010 geography and pull the entire census and did a complete demographic profile of each individual attendance area. And this is a real handy chart because 5-year-old population corresponds roughly with kindergarten, first grade, second grade, third grade, fourth grade, and fifth grade and on. Now you get a little bleed over because these are calendar years versus school years. But it will tell you the relative size of cohorts by elementary area. And this is one of the strengths of the demographic method. When households move into an area, people want to add it to what they already have in enrollment, not realizing that these school-age cohorts coming behind them may be smaller or may be bigger. It varies from area to area. Okay? And also, it tells you the relative size of the cohorts going out. So you have one here that 5th, 6th, 7th graders are 190. You only got 120 coming in. Without in-migration, that enrollment is going to decline. What it also allows us to do is, here's a number here for first graders, 3-year-old data. So 3 years in the future, that number should closely correspond to the enrollment we have in the school right now. We can also talk about the market share. About 88, 89% of the kids that live in the district go to elementary. That's about the moment in the school district. So you can see that number has changed and gone up over the last 3 years. We can measure in-migration specific to that individual area. It's been my experience over the years that when a 3rd grader moves, they tend to take the whole family with them. So I can generalize that to that's the household movement, household size, and neighbors tend to be rather homogeneous in their socioeconomic and demographic characteristics. So if you look this up on the website, this is one that really pour over. This tells you a lot right here because it sets the base. The analogy I like to use when I'm doing forecasts is like balancing your checkbook. You got to have the proper balance to start with. If your opening balance is off by $100, you just can carry that $100 arrow all the way through. Okay? This allows you to know what you're coming again. And this is, it turns out to be a very, very key issue. Next slide, please. Okay. This is a population pyramid. You can actually see this because this is from 2000 census. 2010 one up here next. This is how you kind of read one. Think of this your demographic figure. No two areas have exactly the same size, shape, age, sex distribution. It's very, very unique. But the 0 to 4 population, that's your preschoolers. That's your elementary, middle, high school. 24 to 34 is the prime fertility age. 65% of all births occur to women in their 20s. 35% of all births occur to women between 20 and 34 years old. This is standard formation age. Okay? 35 to 55 are the households that tend to have the most kids in school. 55 to 70 is empty nesters, and over 70 is downsizers. Now, these are again broad typologies. There are exceptions to all rules. I was a first-time father at 40. I now have a high school senior. I'm 57 years old. People at school functions always tell me what a nice, well-behaved grandson I am. My response to the company here, but there are a few of us out there. Now, first thing you do in a forecast is we call it dummy forecast. If nothing happens, look at your own demographic. After 25 years here, you can see that your elementary enrollment is pretty much stay the same. You know, little growth in middle school, little growth in high school, things like that. So that when I add in factors due to in-migration from households, due to existing home sales or new home sales, I'm adding to that base. Now, next one is 2010 census. Next slide. Whoa! Well, like the pyramid really gives you a picture. Here's all those folks that moved out here in that decade. And notice that there's a huge deficit here in the 20 to 34-year-olds. These cohorts aren't big enough, given your fertility rate, to produce grade cohorts this size. Notice the deficit here is 0 to 4. All right? So, without in-migration, nobody moved in, your elementary enrollment would drop about 2,000 students in 5 years because the cohorts coming behind it are so much smaller. Okay? So that when you add in the impacts of in-migration, be it new home construction or existing home sales, and they're bringing in preschool kids, you have to fill up this deficit just to break even. Now, it comes out, you need about 900 to 1,100 new households coming per year to fill in that deficit each year. Okay? With 2,000 coming in, it produces some growth. However, not as much growth as people would expect because you're filling in this deficit. And then that's going to age into middle school, and this is going to age into high school. That's why we know your high school enrollment is going to go up so much. You got so many middle schools. Now, with boards and buildings that have a large crowd here that do a survey, really show the dynamics of how this works. How many people in attendance this evening have children enrolled in Union County Public Schools? How many of you have preschoolers at home? Okay, about a fifth. That's good. How many of you plan on having any more children? Let you work it up for you now. Therein my point. You guys are probably mostly, up in time here, 30 to 44 years old. Okay? Well, the guys are up here, they're down here. So your households aren't going to produce the next generation of kids. Even if you have a fifth of you have some kids down these age brackets. Okay? So I know, and here's the next important question. as soon as your last child graduates high school, how many of you can sell your house and move out of town? It's not enough. The rest of you who stay are going to become empty nesters. And most people stay in their homes for 20, 30, 40 years. I use my dad's house back up in Indiana as an example. One time we sent 4 kids to local school district. Hasn't been a school kid to others since 1976. Won't be till the house and the family moves in. And expand this concept of empty nest. We tend to think of empty nest as when the last kid leaves high school. Well, you could be empty nest of elementary kids, be empty nest of middle school kids. I'm now empty nest of elementary and middle school. I'm not going to have it anymore. Okay? So you're empty nesting at different levels of education as you're going through life. Now the problem is, it's not turning into your 50s when you start downsizing. You see a lot of households coming in. It's not even 65, or as you see an uptick at 62 and 65 for retirement. It's over age 70. It's when it's not retirement. It's the death of one of the spouses. Usually the husband, usually from overwork. And, then the wife figures out, oh my God, this guy actually didn't think about the house. He mowed the lawn, he figured the gutters, at the outside. And then house maintenance is just too tough. Come on, guys, help me out.
Hey, you dug that hole yourself.
I think one too. Yeah, more women than men. Then they say, gee, let's downsize the house and get mom closer to the kids, things like that. And the home comes on the market. So you really don't see a high level of turnover until 70, 75 years old, depending on the type of housing you're in. Now, and also every population pyramid from 2000 and 2010 for each elementary tenants area is in the final report. It'll be up on the net. Now, pay particular attention to the shape of the district photo. Not one of elementary areas population pyramid are the same size, shape, dynamic as the district photo. Well, you can't use district-wide averages to get out on attendance because you're all right. You're all individual attendance areas are heavy. Next slide. Just a couple. Also, you see here a whole bunch of charts from the 2000 census. Households with population under the age of 18%, 45%. There's not a school district in the United States that has households in the majority with under 18 population. The average actually is closer to about 38%. Average household size, 2.94%. Okay? There's a great rule in the market. You can have money, you can have kids, you can't have money. Okay? So as income goes up, number of kids goes down. Okay? So areas that have high FCS and have lower. And this is pretty much predominantly two-parent household country. So you can look at this going, okay, 2 parents and 0.94 is a rough, real rough. We'll overgeneralize that. See how this varies here in the school district. Okay. Next slide. Householders 3554. After in the district that varies wildly. Householders over age 65 and percent homeowners. Now 81% for district average, but it got high 90s, you've got 32, you've got 37. The redder areas really stand out. But you see some pretty wide variations here. But you don't have that many with large over 65 populations. Okay, so you're going to have a whole lot of turnover. Next slide is a single person households, family formation. But single person over 65, this also gives you an idea of how much turnover. This is usually where the husband died already. So, again, 10.6 pretty low on that. So not really a key factor this decade. Next slide is a couple of the population pyramids. I picked the East because East has a high concentration of rental property. Don't come out of college and buy a house. You come out of college and rent an apartment. And then marry a family and move into a house. Then you start a house, then keep moving up socioeconomic status. Hopefully you move to a move-up house. Okay? You go through the life course that way. But notice the high concentration of young people, there's no preschool deficit here. And this is also sort of a feeder area for the rest of the district. There are households in the east area, apartments, and move to single and detached houses in other parts of the district. An important migration flow. Not all of your growth of young households come from outside the district. Next slide. This is east in 2010. You can see it keeps going. There's the apartments. There's the preschool, in this case, surplus. Next one. Fairview. Now, Fairview is an established suburban area. And anytime you see this hourglass Christmas tree type figure, this is classic of suburban areas. Why? Because, you know, Union County suffers from what I refer to as the curse of the successful school district. Okay? Your post-secondary participation rate is what, 82, 84%? They go off to college, they don't get that. You don't marry the boy or the girl next door, marry the boy or the girl next door. Okay, now, parents, how many of you have plan on having your kids come home and live with you at college? You know, I told mine to change the address. As long as you've got money to get them to get care. So they're not here. The people who are moving out here, 25, 30, 35, are not the ones who moved up here. It's not returning migration. You know, hear stories of, you know, John and Mary didn't like really what came back from the county. That's the exception, not the rule. Again, parents, how many people here were born and raised in the county? I love when the theory plays out. This is Fairview in 2000. Next one is Fairview 2010. And yeah, grow a little bit, but everybody got 10 years older. And look what showed up, that nasty 0-4 deficit. Because the in-migration to that area was not sufficient enough to build cohort size up to what it had been before. So without additional in-migration, Fairview's enrollment, the elementary side will drop. However, and probably a little bit middle school, but the high school is going to go up for that feeder area because you just got more kids aged in. Next slide. Kensington. I like this one. This thing was in 2000. Why is it so small? It's just nothing was there. Okay. Now, Kensington 2010. There we go. Okay. Here's all the people that moved out and the kids they brought with them. So notice how small that 0-4 or that 20, 24, 25, 29. Other factor here is high SES. The higher cost of the house, the older people tend to be when they move in. Now again, exception to the rule, you get the lottery, you know, .com, boom, whatever it might be. You might have a few people do that, but most of us normal people can afford those kind of houses. Well, I can't afford more about 163, but you know, 20-year-olds are going to live there. So this area is dependent upon in-migration. Now, fortunately or unfortunately, depending on your perspective, Kensington is one of the areas that high concentration in home construction. So over the short term, they are going to have enough in-migration to roll out that 0-4 cohort. But look at the size of the elementary, the middle, the high school. You can see this wave start to come through. Very, very, very big key. Next slide. Marshville, I like this one. One of your more stable populations, much more even distribution. This is 2000, and then 2010. Marshville looks like this. But again, you're seeing, you know, a drop off here in the 2030s, and every time you see this, you're going to see a drop off from 0-4. And last but not least, I believe we have, yes, Walter Big. I think that's where we're at. There's some apartments in the area. That's where you're seeing population in these age groups, and then anytime you see population in the 20s and 30s, you tend to see a little bubble in the 0-4. 2010, keep going. This is again a feeder area for our rest of the district. But you can see how the dynamics of each of the individual attendance areas have their own unique characteristics. So you have to look at them individually to see what impact they have. Now the next slide, I whacked off. So kind of a suburban pattern, but it's also got its own municipality. 2000, 2010. Personal note, they changed that intersection with turning left and crossing the railroad track, the trains there. I don't have to talk that one, but again, aging, your largest age group, for adults in their 40s, is not going to see a whole lot of fertility out of the 5+ group. Okay? 0 to 4. Okay, the next slide is, this is the, and you can't read this, okay? Anyway, you can focus this a little better. That's what you can do. Well, that's one way of doing it. Okay. 2013 is the base year. All right. And growing about 800 students last year. And much as I hate to admit this, the fundamental factor on district level or attendance change is what's the number of kids coming in, what's the number of kids going out. Okay? At the district level, you're going to have aggressively larger 12th grade classes in the district. Go back just as recent as 2007, you had less than 2,000 12th graders. Now you've got 2,700, you're going to 3,000 real soon. The analogy I use here is a bucket of water. Right? A bucket of water, there's a hole in the bottom. I'm pouring water at the top. If I'm pouring in the top, faster going on the bottom rise. But if that hole at the bottom gets bigger, if I keep pouring in at the same rate, going out the bottom faster than I'm pouring in, it's going to start dropping. And that's how this cohort effect works. What's happening is the hole at the bottom of the bucket gets bigger. So even if you're pouring in people at the same rate you've had for years, inevitably, your enrollment will start to drop. You have to run faster in the same place. And you can look at that also at the elementary level, the middle school level, and the high school level individually. Okay? Now, one of the key points here, if you slide this down a little bit, high school, slide over to the right, that's a very, very key point. There we go. Keep going. One more. Okay. Now, your district level growth is going to stop by the end of the decade. And one of the reasons it's going to stop is because you've got 3,400 students coming out in 12th grade. You would have to have 3,000 households coming in per year to fill up for that gap. Okay? It starts in the elementary first. Middle school will start declining in the decade. Won't see it in high school. This is a very, very key point. I know high school is one of your key considerations. 80 to 90% of your increase in high school enrollment is kids already live in the district. If you invoke building bans today, nobody builds nothing, no one sells anything, nobody moves in, no one moves out, about 80% of that forecasted growth in high school is going to occur. Just because you got the bigger cohorts, this wave coming through. Now, if you add in migration to it, particularly people higher income households tend to move more middle school than elementary kids, it just amplifies that trend. But 85, or 80, I say at least 80% right now, is kids already in there, whether they do anything or not. That's the reality of it. They moved out here 5, 10, 12 years ago. All right. Now, I usually at most schools I say, the factor about the dropout rate. Look at the dropout rate at the last 5-year average constant. And like most school districts, you have an aggressive policy to reduce your dropout rate. Okay. If you reduce it, it's just going to make these increases higher. Okay. Now the good news is your dropout rate is pretty low compared to school districts. This part of the country, it's pretty good in part of the country. So you don't have, you'd like to get down like 5%, but you've got less room than the school district have like 20, 25, 28% dropout rate. Close to that. So, but if you do succeed, say you drop it 2 percentage points, you can add another couple hundred kids. Price of success. Okay. Now, I've got every school on the back side of that the internet. I'm not going to go through the whole one. I'll open up the questions this time. If there's a specific question you want to answer, Eric, we can look at that. It's going to be somewhere down the PowerPoint. The numbers going to look something like this, hard to read. Again, the full report's going to be up on the web. I guarantee that both of you will not like that work. There's two things I've never heard in over 1,000 presentations. And the first one is, nope, I think this guy is right on the money. And the second one is, gee, Dr. Gibbons, I think your forecasting is a little too low. I'm always wrong. Never been right yet. Questions?
When you're looking at the permits, and we were talking about 2,000 permits a year for 5 years, is that an average? So one year we may have 1,700, and another year we may have 2,300. Are you averaging that out over 5 years, or is that
18, 19, 20, 21, 22? And that's pretty much, can the economy handle it? Will the mortgage lenders, remember they have restricted lending practices now. You have to have a job, have to have a down payment, have to have that. There's restrictions there now. So,
we'll go back to the
I'll tell you now, if Freddie Fannie goes under, or Bank of America gets slapped with a couple $1 trillion fine, something like that, and they quit lending, I'm going to be fine.
Other questions from the board?
Yeah, can you explain a little bit more about the wave that you're seeing in high school? So how over what period of time is that wave going to pass and that fluctuation not be what it's going to be now or in the next couple of years?
Back up. You're at 12.3 right now, heading for about 14,000, about 700 more students. You got a huge cohort coming out this year. It will drop off. Then levels out to you're probably about 14.2 for 5 years after that. I would say it's going to end about 2025. Okay, so you're probably looking at a good 12-year wait. Okay. Now, again, the housing industry takes up. Important because it's going to elongate that curve and amplify them higher. Fewer than another 6,000 bill. It's going to be not quite as high. Given the assumptions you put into it, looking at 12 years, the worst that we can find. Else?
Okay, if there are no other questions, I'm going to let Dr. McKibben go, and I think we have the phone number, right?
Well, Don was going to have to go to mine. I'm sure some questions will come up. Oh, I should have had one more thing. We don't forecast for you. As our practice has been, every year for these next 3 years, I will call up staff, send your ATM numbers, performance, your total grade, and total individual attendance there, and do a evaluation of the forecast. 2 reasons. One of them wrong, you might not want. Something violated, right. Yeah. You'll be able to take those probably 2 weeks after staff engineer. Well, I'm not getting on that road. We're doing New Hanover right now too, and everything you just said.
use it for it. Yeah, how, what's the first time I ever heard someone just use power and not for the words in the middle of school?
All right, Dr. McKee, thank you very much.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
I'm glad we finally got this report in hand. I know a lot of folks have been waiting on it. And as chair of the facilities committee, I would like to ask you to exercise your prerogative of consensus of the board to direct superintendent and staff to start to deaggregate this data and prepare it for the facilities committee. Our next meeting, I believe, will be January the 6th. And as part of that, I would ask that, if possible, the facilities committee meeting be held in this particular venue. The last facilities meeting we had, a lot of folks were in attendance and curious about what was happening, and we were pressed for seeing. So I want to make sure anybody that wants to see the process is afforded that opportunity. And I guess there's 3 strategic goals I would like the staff to accomplish in deaggregating and preparing this for us. First, I want to clearly define these population bubbles and movement and cause and effect. If we have to make any adjustments, I want them to be long-term adjustments. As we've heard from some of our speakers here tonight, this isn't something we want to revisit in a couple of years. This particular issue has probably caused more angst and anxiety amongst my constituents and the rest of you up here than anything that I've seen us deal with thus far. So I want to make sure that we're taking a hard look at it. Secondly, I want to make sure the staff provides us with the information that we need to fully vet any available seats to deal with these bubbles, any options that would be fiscally responsible to the taxpayers to address our needs for space and make sure we're being proper stewards of our in-kind resources. Third, I would ask that any adjustments consider optimum utilization and efficiency concerning support services such as transportation, and some of the other support services, so the folks in the audience will know that I'm particularly interested in. I know the facilities committee and probably the rest of the board is as well. Optimum classroom capacity as it aligns with our policy, our seating capacity and our cafeterias as far as how we can facilitate lunches at schools, meal preparation capacity at schools. I mean, we can't basically start serving lunch until a certain time. The way I understand it, have to be wrapped up at a certain time. We want to make sure we can do that. The capacity of our media center, we need to make sure we can serve all our students properly. Office and guidance services need to be adequate to serve populations. The ability to add square footage to schools, I want to see that considered as well. Now, it's my understanding in research, and I'm sure the staff will correct me if I'm wrong, but it takes about 18 to 24 months minimum to add classrooms, and classroom costs are somewhere in the neighborhood of about $1.5 million per classroom as far as adding on. So I want to make sure that I'm solid on that reason if we want to take a look at that. The ability to add mobile classrooms if we have enough property to do that. And with that said, the addition of mobile units, if it's going to require additional toilet facilities or whatever, and kind of core support additional mobile classrooms, we can't just keep adding mobile units if we can't serve them in the cafeteria and if we don't have adequate facilities. And something that really is particularly a concern to me with the addition of mobile classrooms, when it comes to severe weather or other incidents where we may have an emergency situation, do we have room inside of brick and mortar to provide safe shelter for students? And I don't want to push this out to 120%. I would like there to be a conservative hedge on being able to move students to safety. So that's one thing I want to take a real hard look at. Another thing on the bubbles, if we allow some overcrowding, over the 100% or whatever, how long will it take those bubbles to move through the school and remedy themselves? I mean, we've seen the demographics, so there's a lot to digest, but I would like to see what those movements look like and how quickly they might self-correct if we tweak as little as possible if necessary. I'll follow up with these notes that I've jotted to Dr. Webb and Dr. Ellis. I'd like to say, Mr. Chairman, I would like to exercise your prerogative and direct staff to prepare for facilities.
Thank you, Mr. Stewart. I'll do that. Any other comments? Okay.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, ma'am.
I want to see if I can sit with Mr. Stewart, after the meeting, Dr. Webb and Mr. Hughes and I jotted notes and I saw Mike writing and I know Donna was writing, but I want to make sure we got every one of the points you said and get some, ask some clarifying questions if you will, if that's okay.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, so that goes to the McKibben report, and that will be posted tomorrow for anybody that wants to go on the website. So, next, we're going to move to our external audit report. We pay a CPA firm to audit us, and we report on that. Yeah. Tell you what, we're going to take a 5-minute break so everybody can clear it
Thank you.
Clark, you doing well?
Hey, I'm good. How are you doing?
Doing well.
Good to see you. Good to have you back here.
Happy to be here. How you doing with the 25%? Is that giving you a headache yet?
Yeah, it's giving us a headache, obviously, because there's no. It's not clear.
Oh, it's mine.
Yeah. Looking at evaluations, how do you have consistency in evaluation? Because all evaluations are different. But we had a good process that we worked through with our principals and our teachers, and we got some buy-in from team committee, Laura, and some great job with them, and then principal people. So far so good right now, but we're going to wait till February to present. We'd like to have other districts present. Are you aware of any other districts that have approved this?
I'm not aware of anybody's got approved. I know Therington is doing the strength in numbers. Yeah, they've got this whole formula business.
Right.
Point system.
Right. Point, yeah.
I'm not a fan of it. I think it's like steps. It doesn't look good on everybody. It's not going to fit all districts. It's not going to fit, what's going to work in marketing. It's not going to work in Lincoln.
It amplifies the whole problem of evaluation.
The teachers has been, you have 3 years in the same district. You barely had a year. So it's like, how am I supposed to measure you with the instruments?
Yeah, or, yeah, and, 66, your district had to accept that instrument and see what's our central service. We haven't moved from central service. Also, there is a central service. Yeah, there is. We haven't moved to it yet. And ours, we use the old instrument. We got to basically IGP. There's no points on it. What we did is we kind of used it as a filtering people out. That's the first filter. And right now, Mike, what we talked about so far, the sales kind of comes in again is that if I don't have an evaluation to fix what we're talking about here, then I make it to the next round. So there are other filtering agents that can happen. Well, yeah, I'm not hurting the employee. And,
as long as the pool's big, that's what it's all about. Make that pool as big as possible.
It's about 2,000
Yeah. Just what may be the same as curve. Yeah. I mean, you've got some of the Northeast, Northampton. They've got a couple of small, rural districts that I don't think strength in numbers is going to be present. We're customers. We're insurance. What does the board do? That's ultimately my question. What is the superintendent recommending, and then what does the board do?
That's what I was wondering.
Their advice to them is kind of strength in numbers sort of idea.
I say the NCAA that.
Yeah, I don't know what it is. I don't know what it is.
I don't know.
I was in here's what I was doing. I was a kid that would be rural, not had specialized law for chamber. That's what I was. Somebody that doesn't have the school board structure, somebody who is small and has a general practitioner. That's what I
would always think that districts that have the largest outlier as a criteria.
2-minute warning. Board of Education. We're going to get started. 2 minutes.
That's a long time. It'll be interesting. I don't know that. They go through this scale.
What do you think of that? What do you? There's something going on.
Well, I used to work the professional economics
She used to work for Schwartz and Canada. Back when he was with Schwartz and her, Roswell. Yeah, she was staying with she's resigned. I mean, she knows everybody all. Incredibly unpopular. Well, the thing that scares me is that Tom's trying back in North Carolina, running a mediation business, which means Tom Stern is in North Carolina with lots of time in his hands. Yeah. Tom Stern is in North Carolina.
Okay, I'm going to bring it back to order. Mr. Karpinski, would you be so kind as to give us an external audit report?
Yes, sir. Actually, we have been audited by Anderson, Smith & White this year. As you are aware, we have to do an independent audit on an annual basis, and here to represent the firm is Mr. Aaron Shepard.
Good evening. We had the auditor followed by the accountant.
And you notice everybody left.
Yeah. Okay. The auditor looks forward, I look back. These financial statements for the fiscal year ended June 30, 2013. We issued you basically 4 column reports / letters. The first one we issue is a letter to the actual board, to you guys, you being the ones who engage us to perform the audit. It's a 2-page letter dated November 25th, 2013. In this letter, we would put anything that we encountered during the audit that didn't fit in the context of the other reports that we issued. This is basically our report card. If we had any troubles with management, any disagreements, anything that we found that they didn't correct, that we felt we should present to you. Again, this is that 2-page letter, and we don't have any of those type of issues to disclose to you. It's, everything went smooth with the audit. We didn't find any instances where there were misstatements that went uncorrected or disagreements in accounting policies. And, your finance department doesn't seek additional opinions from other accounting sources if they disagree with us. So we have none of those types of issues that we would put in this letter to present to you. The letter also states that management signed a representation letter dated the same date, November 25th, and that the audit went as planned in accordance with our engagement letter that we issued to you at in February. So again, nothing to report in that letter. The next 3 reports are the actual financial reports that we issued. The I'll start with the big one, that's the individual school report. We end up going out to every one of your middle and high schools and then sample a selection of your elementary schools to review records and compile a financial statement for each of those schools. And that's presented in about a 70-page report. It's got a page for every school. Some schools get 2 pages, and it's a detail of their revenues and expenses by school, and it ties into our audit report in the individual school fund. This report is not a required report for your main basic financial statements, but it is one we do as part of our audit engagement. I think it's one you guys are customary to seeing. Seeing the activity at each school, seeing their decreases, increases in cash, what they're spending on. So again, I won't go through any of those numbers in detail. They do, though, tie in total to the individual school fund that is presented in the basic financial statement. So that's the big 70-page individual school report. Now, the actual financial statements. On page 1 of our financial statements here is the opinion letter. Our opinion letter to you used to be called an unqualified opinion that you sought after. Now it's an unmodified opinion. You changed the language, and I have to present that you did receive an unmodified, clean audit opinion. And we believe that these financial statements present fairly, in all material respects, the activities and the position of Union County Schools for June 30 and the fiscal year ended June 30, 2013. Again, looking backwards, you know that you're already in the midst, 6 months into your new year. You've got a whole different set of numbers that you're looking at. But part of what you can take away from our audit report is that those numbers are accurate, and that we didn't have to make significant or material adjustments to the statements when we came in. The numbers that you're getting presented with going in the future are accurate, and that, again, material changes weren't necessary to be provided in statements going backward. So, a clean opinion letter. Now, in those financial statements, the most important exhibits are exhibits 3 and 4. That is your income statement and balance sheet by fund for each of your governmental funds. The most important number, or 2 numbers on that exhibit, which is on page 16 if you're following along in the report, is the fund balance for your general fund, and the fund balance also for your other special revenue fund. Total fund balance for your general fund as of June 30, 2013 is $5,561,000. That fund balance used to be combined with the fund balance that's in the other special revenue fund, which totals $6.3 million. So that combined is around $11 million, $11.9 million of fund balance between those 2 funds. Now in the general fund, of that $5.5 million, only $745,000 is unassigned, is available for spending in future years. $2 million of it is restricted by state statute. Another $2.8 million already has plans to be spent. Already assigned and taken on responsibilities and that will spend that money. So the unassigned fund balance in the general fund at the end of the year is $745,000. Again, the next important statement, the change in fund balance, Exhibit 4, basically the income statement by fund, starts on page 18 of the financial statements. You'll see at the bottom of that page, general fund change in fund balance in 1 year was a decline of $4.2 million. So your general fund balance went from $9.8 million to $5.5 million in 1 year. So, given that balance, given the activity for 2013, can't afford to have a repeat year. So many different areas. Yeah. So, again, my main goal is to tell you that the financial statements are accurate. We don't get into analyzing too much how much fund balance you do need, common question that's asked, how much fund balance do we need? There is no set guidance. There is guidance for counties and towns, 7% of fund balance, 7% of your expenditures is a good estimate of what a healthy fund balance should be. Again, I would combine that general fund balance to the special revenue fund balance and compare that to my revenues to look at the health of that fund balance for the district. And you're at about 3.8. You take out your individual school revenue, your capital money, you look at just your 4 main state, federal, general, special revenue money, your fund balance makes up about 3.8% of those expenditures. If there's is there any questions on the actual financial statements? I know you had time to, and again, this is the financial part. I'll get you the compliance part next. But if there's any questions on those? All right. Finally, the other part of the audit that we do is a compliance audit. We come in and audit your adherence to state and federal requirements for certain programs. Title I, special ed. Your biggest pool of money, your state public school fund money. We have to audit that every year for compliance. I go through that you are following set guidelines, rules, how that money is spent. And that report is issued here in the compliance report. It's a 13-page report. It's made up of basically 3 letters. One is on internal controls or financial reporting. We did not discover any exceptions or deficiencies in internal controls that we thought were significant deficiencies or material weaknesses. Those are our key words: significant deficiencies, material weaknesses. We found none of those. So again, that is a clean, independent, or internal control audit report. That's the first letter. The next 2 letters are our opinion letters on your compliance with state, and then another letter for federal requirements for the funds that we audit as major. And both those reports state that, in our opinion, you adhere to those compliance requirements for each of the major funds that we audit. And we noted, though, that in the state public school fund, we had 2 small exceptions. But many of those exceptions resulted in what we thought were deficiencies or material weaknesses in controls, and none of them resulted in questioned costs. None of them resulted in money that was spent that you should have spent. So those are the results, the findings in that 13-page compliance report that you have. And those specific findings are found on page 9 and 10 of that. So if there's no questions on those findings or those reports, that concludes what I have for you. I appreciate your time.
Thank you very much.
Good holiday.
All right, so we're going to move on to item 13, our 2014-2015 calendar. Dr. Clark.
Mr. Chairman, one quick question for Dan before he gets out of pocket. These audits and the findings will be posted on our website.
Yes, actually, we'll have that. We'll have the external audit and the certified annual financial report, which the audit is a part thereof, on our website. The audit will go out there tomorrow, and then the certified financial report will be out there within the next 2 weeks, I would say.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
First of all, I just want to make sure every board member got the email that I sent yesterday with regards to the calendar. There was a slight change in what they had sent out in the board materials, and if you didn't, I can at least point out the change and so make sure you're reading the right information as far as the year round. Hearing none, I just want to here tonight to bring you the calendars for the additional year-round calendar and the early college calendar. I want to thank, first of all, the committee that participated in this. We had about 30 members, a large group that met in this very room to go through the calendar committee over 2 sessions. Ms. Hodges participated in this. I was very, very pleased. The first time we actually had a student that was extremely active participant in the process and providing suggestions, good suggestions that we actually used to help get the information and a decision made. So it was a very, I think, well-vetted process here. Part of the process we have is that once we go through the calendar committee, we come out with, we put the two committees together, the year-round and the traditional. The early college is really done with the principal and working with South Piedmont Community College. We put the two committees that we had for year-round and traditional together, which was a good process this year. And then we broke them up partly in the first meeting and the second meeting to kind of work on their own calendars. And so once that was done over 2 meetings, this calendar was vetted by the PAC, which is Superintendent's Advisory Group from teachers. Every school has participates in that. Principals had a chance to look at that. So we had asked the members of the committee to get this out to their stakeholders to look at and provide input on. Basically what we did is we determined non-negotiables as to like winter holiday breaks, spring breaks, how much time, those types of things. And then we created sort of a list of priorities that they wanted to look at with other dates that they would use. And the end result, what we have for you is almost to the date, exactly what the committees wanted. Dr. Ellis made one change with regard, and it's really not a change in the dates, it was a change of just moving a work day with the annual leave day. The same dates are off, teachers are off.
You're talking about the Memorial Day.
Traditional county Memorial Day.
Let me explain that. About 4 years ago, we had a situation where we took about 3 days of spring break, and we had about a 48% attendance rate at school because, and we heard from parents loudly and clearly that winter break and spring break were sacred. We also heard very clearly from parents that Memorial Day was another sacred day. I want to say it was in the 30% attendance rate we had on Memorial Day because that is a traditional family gathering day. So rather than have school and have 70% of our children not there, it just did not make any sense to me. We needed to make sure that parents had that day with their children.
That was the only day that got changed.
Only change that was made by the superintendent, yes.
Now, you have information. The reason why you got the email last night is that the law that we agreed to achieve has a 6-week summer school basically for third grade students here. We've gone back and forth with DPI. We've gotten written information from DPI members. We've gotten a written statement from DPI attorney, and we have attorneys are not in agreement on whether we take the 6th week or within one session in summer, or we can have some flexibility during our enrichment times or 2-week times we have for the year-round school. The law clearly states summer. Michelle feels that, and I'll let her talk about the year-round.
Before she does that, I want to say that I tried hard to leave the year-round schedule as it was for those children. We fought, we sought opinions, and then I'll turn it over to the attorney.
The problem that we have is that the statute says summer reading camp. And summer means summer. The General Assembly intended to be over the summer. That's what the law says. And I can't in good conscience recommend to you that you don't follow the statute as written. DPI's counsel has recommended to her client, not to school boards, but to DPI, that it is okay to have the summer, those weeks not consecutive. But I can't find another attorney who agrees with that. And I've talked to the lobbyist, Leanne Winter, for the School Boards Association, and she tells me clearly the General Assembly intended to be over the summer months. That's why it's called summer reading camp. So we're going to keep looking into it. We're going to keep working, and I'd love for the General Assembly to pick it up in a short session. I don't think they will. It's going to be too late for us anyways, really, to do it at that point. So, you know, we will keep, and if we get different ideas between now and February or March, we'll bring it back to you, but I can't in good conscience recommend you do not do the summer.
And if you compare the schedule for the year-round, the two options that we had out there, it's not a huge difference. We can almost get it in the way it was, but we had to basically reduce by, I think, around 8 days of breaks. One was at the winter break, and one was at the fall break. It took a week away from the fall break. And that's all I have with regards to the calendar.
Questions?
I have a comment. We were discussing this last week at our state board meeting. It's up for right now. And huge question because I'm sorry, I had to put my last week's agenda. It's under TCS 3, and it was allotment formula for summer reading camps. It was never taken into consideration. Breakfast, lunch, snack, well, at the state level.
Right, Jim Atkinson, at winter, that rousing winter superintendent's meeting, I stood up and asked, how much are we getting per child? And she said $825. And I said, okay, that's great, plus transportation, right? And she said no. So we've been running, John's been running numbers, and Carolyn today, we're going to be in the hole. We're going to be running red on that. We're going to send it to Dr. Atkinson, and we did it with 500 kids, 1,000, 1,500, and 2,000. And we very definitely don't have the money. State Board of Education person.
Correct. And my issue and other state board members brought up that, yeah, if it's not, if you're starting with just a snack or a breakfast, and then you're looking at transportation. And then my other issue, and I'm sure that you share the same issue, is that we're perpetuating the cycle. If you're, what was it, I guess 2 weeks before school, if you're going in 2 weeks before the school year starts. Is that what it was?
As far as year-round goes?
Yeah. Or you're literally basically
Yeah, it's almost,
2 weeks.
We had the question, I asked all the school principals of the year-round schools if they would prefer to start the week after the summer school or wait for the traditional calendar because it is so close. They said as much as that they can get a year-round schedule in as possible, that they feel like that's best for the kids.
So that means start
As soon as the summer is done. As soon as get the teachers in for the work days, then the students.
Which presents other problems for us with facilities and maintenance, but the children's needs are paramount. So that's why, and if we can get some other direction, we will come back with you guys. No, after February, it's sort of a done deal because we've got to get word out to parents by then. But if we can get some movement somewhere, we will happily come back to the board for another recommendation for year-round.
We've done that.
Yes.
Okay, so I need a motion to approve the calendars as presented by Dr. Clark.
And we want to approve them all, even though they're good. The motion to approve all the calendars for early college, traditional calendar, year-round, all of them.
All right, I have a motion. I need a second. Thank you, Mr. Stewart. All in favor? It is unanimous.
Thank you very much. I want to thank one time Laura here. This is her first time. She's not used to doing school calendars, so this is her first time that she did a valuable job. I appreciate that.
Thank you, Laura. Okay, item 14, school improvement plans. Dr. Jones and Dr. Healy.
Evening Board of Education members, this is Tommy Ritter to bring school improvement plans to you for review. Our school improvement plans do continue to be living documents that guide our schools in continuous improvement. They are based, of course, on data with surveys, test data, stakeholder input. This is the second year of the biennium of our school improvement plans. Remember last year, we changed the legislation that the school improvement plans are written every 2 years and they can be updated by the school. This year, we have updated our plans and we enhanced our process this year as a result of one of our 4 recommendations from our advanced ed study last year. One of their recommendations was that we do a more careful job in looking at helping schools and monitoring school improvement throughout the year. That once they are submitted, that we make sure we go back and revisit. I asked Dr. Laurel Healy, our Director of Secondary Education, to work closely with principals to come up with a process. So she will explain that as these are now available for review. Dr. Healy?
As Dr. Jones said, as a result of our advanced ed process last year, we ended up with 4 action items that we have 5 years to address. And because of the nature of the 4 items, there were 2 that fit really well with what we were already doing this year. One of which was the review process for the school improvement plans themselves. So we developed a timeline and introduced all the information to our principals in August. We let them know, as you know, data. The swimming scores were coming back later this year than usual. At first, we thought it was going to be October, so that was our planned time to do our reviews of and updates for this second year of the plan, but that had to be postponed until November. And so this past month, we had all of our principals pair up and swap their plans and do a peer review, not only of the grammar and did you insert the school name where it's supposed to go, but actually looking at the content of the goals. And so actually a lot of rich conversation came out of that process. So every plan was peer reviewed at the 3 different levels, high school, middle, and elementary. And then all of the directors reviewed the plans for their division. And now, in December, we are bringing them to you. They are currently posted on the websites of the schools for your review, and then you will be approving those for next month. The final step for that will be in the spring, in March. The directors will do their checklist again to monitor the progress of the schools as they go through the process and see if there are any areas that we need to support them in as they finish out the year. There is the school safety goal is in there again this year. As always, there's a checklist of all the state requirements that you will see. Most of our schools have a globalization goal embedded in their plan, and any other special programs or projects that the schools are working on individually. And they are for your review.
All right, we have questions or discussion?
May I add that I would invite each board member to review the school improvement plans of schools in your district, because that's the template by which the schools work. That is where we're looking at our Achilles heels and we're trying to improve the things we need to do. And we will come back to you in January and ask that the full board approve these school improvement plans. So I don't want anyone to be caught unawares. They're on the school's websites. On the left-hand side, there is a little quick link for school improvement plans. So if they're in your district, I would urge you to look at them, and we invite you to look at all 53 of them as we have.
Thank you for that invitation.
Another thing I would add that's part of the advanced ed action items is that you will see a PLC component in everyone's plan, either as a separate goal or already embedded.
Any questions, discussion? Thank you very much. Now we're going to move on to Piedmont High School Stadium renovations. Is that why you're here, Dr.? Is that why you're here?
Yeah.
Okay, just check. I mean, you stayed for a long time.
Good evening. On behalf of the Facilities Committee, I'm going to ask that Mr. Hughes share with you the Piedmont High School design from the architect firm of Ramsey, Bergen, and Smith. I will share with you that this has been vetted with Dr. Tyson's site-based team, and we were able to meet most of his needs, except for that visitor side of it that he was keen to get. So we did the best we could, Dr. Tyson.
Okay, part of the current capital improvement plan is to provide a renovation to the Piedmont High School football stadium. So in, let's see, here we go. A couple of years ago, we redid the track. That was phase 1. It's completely redone with more drainage. So this phase is to replace, for ADA and safety, replace the bleachers. That's the main part of the project. So we're replacing the concrete bleachers with prefabricated aluminum and steel, galvanized steel. We have a new toilet and concession stand, which is actually a silent satellite. The main concession is over here. It stays the way it is. This will be a satellite, smaller. We're going to work on the ticket booth.
The paving and the parking lot will be redone because it's falling apart. We're doing some ADA upgrades to the visitor side, and that's it, and some ADA upgrades to the visitor side toilet room. So new toilets, new bleachers. It has handicap ramps going up to the lower level, some vomitoriums that come up the center, and a larger view of the bleachers. It will seat 2,000 on the home side, 1,000 on the visitor side. That's a 3A standard. So there's a blow up of, and I think you all have drawings of this by email. And then perspective, that's pretty much, this is pretty close to Monroe High School. It has the same kind of press box and filming platform in the bleacher area. And then some other views. So that's basically, it's real simple. It's a $1.7 million total project. The construction is estimated at about 1.4, 1.5 million. So that'll do all the construction out there that we need to do. And that should get us pretty far along the road for Piedmont High School Stadium.
With that, we are asking for approval from the full board to move forward with this project and with this design.
Mr. Chairman, on behalf of the facilities, I move to approve.
I have a motion. All in favor? Aye. It is unanimous.
Thank you.
Congratulations, Mr. Buxton.
Thank you very much.
You're not leaving now, are you? Okay, moving on to number 16. Board of County Commissioners true-up monies. Dr. Ellis and Mr. Karpinski.
And also the Finance Committee. So Mr. Gusman, anytime you want to hop in, please feel free to do so. The Board of County Commissioners provided true-up money about, what, Dan, maybe 3 weeks ago?
November 18th board meeting of the commissioners, they approved the $761,000.
And we had proposed to you folks back in last March to the Finance Committee. The Finance Committee proposed it to the board, and the full board adopted a COLA increase for our non-certified, our lowest paid workers. And we were unable to do that because we did not obtain the funding. So when the true-up monies came, and to be very honest with you, we were not expecting them. There was some confusion whether we would get them this year, next year, or the next year. And when they came, we talked about it staff-wise and took it to the Finance Committee that 761, if we retroed it to July 1, would be about a 1% COLA for, here again, our lowest paid workers. And so, Mr. Gusman, I'll turn it over to you. Unless, Dan, do you have anything that I've left out? Mr. Karpinski.
Key thing this would be for non-certified and or classified type individuals. And as Dr. Ellis said, we did take it to the Board Finance Committee and Mr. Gusman.
Well, we did. We met last week, and I think that might be a long time coming. Everyone was fully on board with the 1% COLA for the non-certified at this time. And we have the Finance Committee, I think, motion for approval from the full board.
All in favor? Aye. It is unanimous.
Yes, you can tell your bus driver in the morning. And we wish sorely we could have brought to you the entire 3%, but hope springs eternal, folks. Hope springs eternal. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Curtis. Moving on to item 17, policies for review. Everybody doesn't know this is our general counsel, Michelle Morse. An exceptional law school.
Okay, we're going to run through this very quickly. Policies for review. These have gone to the policy committee, and they're coming before you for review. These are all of these policies are based on your regular review process. There's no statutory changes that have been required to address these. Policy 1 4-17 partnerships. The only change that's been to this policy recommended by the committee was to add the language support and encourage the district to engage in partnerships. It just said to support, and the policy committee wanted to add that encouragement language. And then the policy committee recommended striking the names of certain partnerships we have because they were concerned that other partnerships that we were working with might feel slighted if their names were not in the policy. So just to say partnerships in general. Any questions about that? Super review? Okay, we'll move on to 133, naming schools and facilities. We did add legal reference because that was not a part of the policy initially. And the only other change we added is that the board would consider corporate and individual sponsorships of naming rights. I think the concern was if we had somebody who wanted to give us some good money to name a building, the board wanted to be able to consider that. Any questions or concerns on that? All right, the next one is insurance, 2-12, and the only change was to include some additional legal references. Questions or concerns? All right, 4-22, homeless students, and I don't believe the only change to that policy is on the last page, and it was a change to the designation of the State Board of Education policy as they changed their lettering system. All right.
Thank you for policies for review. Now we're going to move to item 18, policies for approval.
All of these policies came before the Board of Education last meeting, and you all did not recommend any changes. They went back to the policy committee, and we will go through these one by one. The first is 3-3, recruitment, selection, and personnel.
All in favor of this policy? Aye. Aye. Motion. I'm sorry, excuse me. Motion.
It's not your second.
Right.
Motion to approve policy 3-3.
All in favor? Aye. Unanimous?
Okay, the next one is sexual harassment defined for employees, 3-7A. You all did not recommend any changes, and now that the policy committee went back to them.
Motion to approve 3-7A.
That does not require a second.
All in favor? Aye. It is unanimous.
The next we have is age requirements for attendance, 4-4. That similarly did not have any recommended changes from the board at the last board meeting, and went back to policy, and they did not have any additional changes.
Motion to approve policy 4-4.
All in favor? Aye. Unanimous?
Okay. 4-7A, sexual harassment defined for students. Similarly, did not have any recommended changes by the board or the policy committee after the last meeting.
Motion to approve 4-7A.
All in favor? Aye.
Okay, the next is 4-24, registered sex offenders, and same goes for that policy. I'll keep this up again.
Motion to approve 4-24.
All in favor? Aye. Unanimous?
The next is 5-7, health education program, same story.
Motion to approve 5-7.
All in favor? It is unanimous.
Okay, the next policy is 5-8, parent involvement, and this one is not the same story. If you will look at pages 2 of 4, there is a strikeout. If a Title I school, the paragraphs begin their bullets that under Title I schools only. And then on page 4 of 4, the website notification, these changes were proposed by Mr. Cook and Mr. Jeffries after the last board meeting, and policy committee did bring that back for review, and has brought those before you today.
Questions or discussion?
Motion to approve policy 5-8.
All in favor? Aye. It is unanimous.
5-10, school improvement plan, no changes since the last board meeting, recommended by the board or the policy committee.
Motion to approve policy 5-10.
All in favor? It's unanimous.
And lastly, 5-21, internet safety. No changes after 14 minutes.
Motion to approve policy 5-21.
All in favor? It is unanimous.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Mrs. Hodges. AT&T is looking for a new voice. Moving on to item 18J, closed session decisions. We have to vote on closed session decisions, didn't we?
I would motion to approve the closed session decision regarding renewal of the superintendent's contract for an additional year from the beginning of the initial contract period.
Second, Mr. Chair.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, that is unanimous.
Stop it now, I'd also like to make a motion to approve the closed session personnel decision. Second.
All in favor? Aye.
So we have to do the separate. Motion to extend senior cabinet positions contracts to mirror superintendent's contract. With the addition of Mr. Karpinski added to that. For a 4-year contract. Currently.
Second, Mr. Chair.
All in favor? Aye. It is unanimous.
And I believe we have to make a motion to approve the personnel decision for time and transportation director.
Yes.
Well, we'll make that motion also. Or do I have to state the name? I can't remember his first name.
Richard.
Thank you. Got to stand up and salute too.
I have a motion to approve the hiring of Director of Transportation, Richard Kingsbury. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Guzman. That beat Mr. Stewart. All in favor? It's unanimous. Congratulations, Mr. Kingsbury. Congratulations, Mr. Karpinski. Congratulations, senior staff. Congratulations, Dr. Ellis. We are now going to move on to announcements.
Mr. Chairman, facilities will meet January the 6th, 8:30 in this room.
You know if this room is available?
We will meet at 8:30 in this room, Mr. Chairman.
I like how you said it, Mr. Stewart. Thank you. Yes.
Curriculum committee will meet Thursday, December 19th at 12:30.
Okay. Do I have any other announcements?
You can never hand this way.
Okay, if there are no other announcements, oh, wait a minute. Then they give me these laws, and then I think we're moving on.
While we're waiting, actually, Friday night, Monroe High School will be playing in the state championship, and it was an awesome game. It was great to see Parkwood come back and get in the third round last week, and hope lots of people will make it up to Chapel Hill Friday night and say, go Red Hawks, and bring home another state title.
Dr. Webb and Mr. Jackson and myself, I'll be headed to Raleigh Friday.
Okay. Are we good? Are we good? Okay, we're gonna move to item 20, plus Delta.
Well, on the plus, I just would like to wish everybody a safe and wonderful, and a Merry Christmas, and a wonderful holiday break, and I look forward to seeing everybody in the new year.
Thank you very much. So that was a good plus, a Merry Christmas. Did we add any deltas? Okay. I am going to say that we are going to adjourn here and reconvene in closed session. Do I need a motion? Do that, please. I know. I have Mr. Guzman has not to adjourn, to recess to closed session. We will adjourn after closed session. So I have a motion to recess and go into closed session. Do I have a second, Mrs. Hill? Thank you. To consult with board attorneys to preserve the attorney-client privilege. Am I safe? Do I need to go with the statute, NCGS 318?
143, 318, 111, a matter of Union County Board of Education versus Union County Board of Education.
What he said. Can I have a second?
Second, I second it.
All in favor?
Hold on.